So welcome to the Art of Selling Space. My name is Makiko Ara, and I'm the Director of Digital Media at Total Product Marketing. Total Product Marketing is a marketing and design agency in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, and we work exclusively with clients in the hosting and cloud industries. So it's kind of a rainy day here in Vancouver. I hope everyone across the US and Canada are doing well, and welcome to our webinar. So I gave this presentation originally at HostingCon 2014 last month. By the way, it was an amazing event held in South Beach, Miami this year. And if anyone who didn't attend, I would really recommend attending next year. I believe it's in San Diego. So for today's webinar, I've added some additional content here and adapted it for our webinar audience. So this presentation is being recorded and will be live on Digital Eternity as well as on SlideShare. And I should have everything posted on our website at totalproductmarketing.com within, I'd say, the next couple of days. So if you'd like to watch it again, or if you'd like to pass along the slides, it will be available through our website. And if you do have any questions during the webinar, please type it into the comment box here. If it's something I can answer quickly, I'll tackle it at the end of the presentation. For more detailed questions, I'll compile all the questions and send out the answers to everyone on via email after the conference. And other ways that you can reach us is with the Twitter hashtag #SellingSpace, or direct message us at Total PM, and of course you can email me as well if you had any direct questions. So the webinar is being recorded and it will be available through our website. So let's get started. The Art of Selling Space. It's an exciting time to be part of the hosting industry. Today I'm going to tackle the marketing challenges faced by the hosting industry and send you home with some very specific things that you can do to improve your marketing effectiveness and grow your business. So we're all here because we want to see the cloud and hosting industry grow. The hosting industry has grown from servers in the closets of engineers and developers into a multi-billion-dollar industry in just over 15 years. In theory, a healthy industry isn't a problem. There wouldn't be so many companies in the marketplace if there wasn't sufficient appetite. Some of the questions facing hosting providers are, how do we make the cloud easier to access and manage? How do we connect to our buyers? And how do we convince our buyer that the cloud is secure and stable? Some argue it's a race to the bottom, the lowest rates win. But as the requirements get more complex, the opportunities for managed high-end engagements are increasing. The marketing pains of the cloud and hosting industry. First one, it's a very crowded market. Even with our intimate knowledge of the industry, we as insiders have a hard time differentiating one provider from another. Everyone seems to be selling the same thing. So how do we stand out? Next, growth has been organic. Regular marketing hasn't been needed to keep the lights on. And finally, the one that I hear most, there's no budget, no personnel, a lack of resources. And we can't forget about AWS and their presence that looms in the sector. Many companies have started regular marketing, and as hosting is still a young industry, companies emulated the success of their competitors. There was the blue era, where every website and logo seemed to be blue, and then the black and red era, which, if you've been relying on word-of-mouth marketing, isn't a problem. But as you want to grow your company, we need a little marketing strategy, a little bit of creativity. I'm going to make some gross generalizations here, but bear with me and think about your own website and marketing material and see if you too have fallen into any of these common marketing traps in the cloud and hosting industry. Now, all technology companies are guilty of this one. Too much emphasis on functionality. Does that sound familiar? Next one, a race to the bottom. Everybody is selling similar things, just in different packages, options, and variables. And last, lack of creativity. Because marketing has been an afterthought, we rely on the same stock photos of the sparkling server room, just like the one I have here on the slide, and we write the way we speak to each other in the industry, with hosting jargon that doesn't resonate with the buyer. Jargon is defined as the language used for a particular activity or by a particular group of people. So over server stacks and boardroom tables, it's okay, but it's not going to win the hearts of prospective buyers. B2B buyers are human. You're still selling to a customer on the other side of the screen. Decisions aren't going to be 100% objective. So how does the general public buy hosting? The relationship is reactive, not proactive. For the average business, hosting is like air. We expect it to be there, it should perform as advertised, and once we've chosen a provider, we hope to never have to move. If something changes in the business which requires a change in the IT infrastructure, then the discussion is opened about the hosting provider. Only then. Consumers can't differentiate between the many providers. There's Amazon, GoDaddy, Rackspace, and then a whole bunch of other companies. After you look at a handful of hosting providers in the managed hosting arena, say, the buyer starts with a notepad and jots down some features from hoster A, and then some subjective notes like seems to offer everything or site is hard to navigate. Then he goes to hoster B and starts jotting down the features again and realizes that they're pretty much the same. Then makes some more remarks like seems strong on support or has a package close to what we need, etc. Then hoster C and D and so on. You start to see that it's difficult to quantify the differences, so we start to rely on subjective differences. So the worst thing we can do is focus too much on functionality. Knowing what the buyer experiences will allow us to market to them better. Now I realize there is a large segment of the market that is focused on functionality, but let's not lead with functionality. In most cases, the functionality that you offer on its own isn't remarkable, unless you're, say, Amazon. Now my guess is that Amazon doesn't care too much about marketing. Their focus is purely on functionality. They excel at functionality. They are the ones that move the bar on functionality. Their functionality is indeed remarkable. Remarkable means you're top 1% of what you do. Something that makes people say, holy smokes. If you're not functionally remarkable, then we can be economically remarkable. That's GoDaddy and Bluehost in their space. Holy smokes, $349 a month for shared hosting? I don't know what I'm getting, but I have nothing to lose. So unless you're remarkable economically or functionally, don't lead with that message. Now don't get me wrong, you have to be competitive, but don't lead with functionality. We recognize that the B2B buyer is a consumer, yet in technology, the predominant emphasis in marketing is still on functionality. This pyramid shows the division of resources put into each of the three areas of positioning for a technology company. We figure 90% of the focus is on functionality. A little bit of thought, at 10% maybe, goes into economics, and 1% or no thought goes on into the emotional benefits. Despite what seems logical, even B2B decision making is largely irrational and emotional. So why aren't we focusing more on emotion? Think of the time when you were shopping for a vendor for your business, maybe a maintenance contract, equipment, software, printers, couriers, professional services, whatever it may have been. How much of your decision was based on a gut feeling? Probably quite a bit. If you remember only one thing from this presentation, let it be that we need to tap into the emotional benefits in order to connect to the B2B buyer. Let's think about what I'm saying here. As technology providers, I'm asking you to talk less about functionality. This may be a difficult pill to swallow, but consider this. Google and CEB's Marketing Leadership Council conducted a customer experience survey of 3,000 purchasers of 36 B2B brands. The survey wanted to understand the factors that drove decision-making amongst B2B buyers. The research found that most buyers couldn't see the functional difference between vendors. The survey specifically asked, do you see a real difference between suppliers and value the difference enough to pay for it? The answer was a resounding no, with 86% saying they couldn't see a real difference and didn't value the difference enough to pay for it. So what's left? How did they make their decision? What if we focused on the emotional benefits that your product will bring? How would that affect the buyer? How will your services improve their lives? How will their experience interacting with your product and support staff be? What barriers and pains can you help them overcome? If we made the decision easier for the buyer to make by quickly bringing attention to what is important, how your specialization can help them, that would help them to understand your benefits better, be best of breed, and relate to the buyer. Next, be creative in approaching your product in a different way. Don't follow the pack. Let the customer experience and needs drive marketing decisions. And finally, create the anticipation of professional and personal rewards. What rewards can they gain personally and professionally by getting hosting from you? B2B buyers are more likely to make a decision when praise for their purchase and decision and pride and confidence in their decision are evident. The decision to take action or make a purchase by a B2B buyer is highly personal. What if you could assure them that making the switch to you as a vendor is the right decision? Let's go back a bit here and turn to our buyer again. In the past, B2B buying was done by committee, with RFPs, demos, sales presentations, and the like. Now, the B2B consumer experience is a lot more personalized. Buyers consume content like water, through email, website, reviews, social media. They're on the bus, in the office, at home, where individuals can get 90% of the information from their laptops and be greatly influenced on a personal level by your website, reviews, and social media. The last 10% of the decision may be made in the boardroom, but by that time, the individual stakeholders have made their personal decisions. The consumer is also very impatient and impulsive. Statistics show that you have roughly 8 seconds to grab the attention of the average internet user. This means that you have to say or show something that resonates with the customer within 8 seconds of landing on your page. And to this that the average user only scans 20% of words on the site, you start to see that you have a very narrow window of opportunity to get a person to stay on your site to learn more about your company. Now, making a decision like, say, which bread to buy is easier than deciding which wine to buy. That's because we buy bread more often than wine. We can make very rational and objective decisions about bread buying. We buy based on price, nutritional value, taste, maybe texture. We can do that because we make this decision often and we can be objective about it. Now, wine, I apologize to any wine drinkers out there, but how many of you have reached for a bottle of wine because you liked the label or because the name made you laugh? You probably had a price range in mind and after some thought made a pretty irrational decision. The result was either a very rewarding glass of wine and accolades at the dinner party, or disappointment and polite comments over dinner. Now make the leap to buying hosting for your company, a decision most of us make only a handful of times in our lives, if you're lucky only once. We go into the process with every intention of being objective, but at the end of the day, our notepad is filled with subjective comments about how the site resonated with us. And at the end of the day, we're just looking for a company we can trust that will do what they say they'll do and make us look good for a decision well made. But the final piece of the puzzle is fear, another emotion. Back in the 80s and 90s, people used to say, you won't get fired for choosing IBM. So if decisions can be driven by anticipation of personal and professional gain, the same can be said for fear of failure, fear of making the wrong decision. The B2B buyer makes every attempt to not make an emotional decision by doing ROI analyses, hosting provider comparison matrices, technical evaluations, and the like. But at the end of the day is motivated by the fear of making the wrong decision. How you can quell those fears is by developing a strategy that's based on the emotional experience of the buyer, like assurance, and other emotions that connect trust, security, competition, belonging, control, freedom, leadership, and even guilt. All emotions which empower the buyer, make them feel good about making the right decision. So let's go back to the three elements that we've covered so far: functional benefits, economic benefits, and emotional benefits, the three benefits you must convey as a technology brand. The idea of being remarkable. Functionally remarkable is Amazon. Economically remarkable is GoDaddy. So the last remarkable we need to convey is emotional remarkability. What emotions motivate people to take action? To put one brand at the top of the list, to remain in the hearts and minds of the B2B buyer when the final decision is made in the boardroom. So, for B2B buyers, it's the anticipation of reward, fear of failure, trust, security, consistency, longevity, belonging, and a lot of other emotions. Notice the word benefits following each of the three parts of positioning. This is very important in that without conveying the benefits, you're not marketing to your customer. Do you remember when these commercials used to air on television? In the commercial, an assertive male voice simply said, 10 out of 12 healthcare companies use Oracle. The message was targeted at alpha male CIO types whose decision to move to or not to move to the Oracle ERP could make or break their career. In not so many words, the message is saying, use Oracle because everyone else is. Be one of us. Don't go elsewhere and make the wrong decision and risk your career. A strong messaging targeting a very specific emotion for a specific audience. Have I convinced everyone? Are you warming up to the idea of adding emotion to your marketing? If you're still wondering why, people feel first and think second. We process emotion 5 times faster than we process cognitive input. Capitalize on this by creating a marketing strategy that strikes at the emotional benefits first and then follows up with functionality. Because trust is more valuable than data. Initially establishing trust is more valuable than a lot of specs and data. And keep in mind, you only have 8 seconds to capture the attention of a consumer on your website. So how do we inject emotion into our marketing? Let me introduce you to the ETC marketing model. So E is for emotional benefits, T is for triggers with association, and C is content of value. ETC, so it's easy to remember because it's etc. So let's start with E, big E, sell on emotion. Every technology company needs to be doing more of this. This should be a fundamental component of your brand. Good emotions in marketing that encourage action are trust, excitement, humor, joy, awe, sympathy, even physical exertion. Some negative emotions also encourage action like anger, fear, disgust, and distrust. Indifferent emotion and the ones that we should avoid are complacent, boredom, disappointment, sadness. Relating and associating are strong too and allow us to connect to our emotions even better. Let's use a consumer example on a hosting website. The good emotions have positive effects on the consumer. Consumer thinks, this looks exciting. I want to experience more. This is a great product. I want to experience this all the time. I want to buy hybrid hosting, for example. Negative emotions also have an effect on the consumer, but can be used to provoke action too. Consumer thinks, this is horrible. This could happen to me. I hope it doesn't happen to me. How can I avoid this? I want to buy disaster recovery. The indifferent emotions are the emotions we want to avoid because science has found that these emotions cause the most inactivity or no response. These are emotions that we want to avoid. The consumer thinks, this is boring. These hosting plans are all the same. Don't they have anything that meets my needs? Google and use search. Off your site. What does your product help the customer accomplish? How will they feel? Here are some more stats for the largely left-sided thinkers in this room. This was a case study done by the social media app Buffer. 1,400 advertising campaigns were sorted based on 3 standards of emotion. Those that were rational, left brain, or emotional, right brain, and those that were a combination of the two, combined. The vendors were asked whether the campaigns were very profitable. 16% of those with the rational campaign said their campaigns were profitable, but nearly double that at 31% of the vendors with emotional campaigns said they were profitable, almost double. This also answers the question why videos of babies and kittens get more views on YouTube. Adding emotional benefits to your marketing will resonate with your prospect and lead to increased sales. All right, now let's move to T, triggers with association. Triggers are things in your marketing that help the consumer remember your company or your product. Triggers can be a distinctive design, a slogan, a logo, name, mascot, format, product, anything that makes your site or product memorable. Now, when you think of the auto insurance provider Geico, what do you think of? Yeah, probably the quirky gecko with the British accent. If you think a bit deeper into your memory, how many of you remember the hilarious caveman commercials put out by Geico? The slogan was, "So easy, even a caveman can do it." The commercial had great popular success. Even an SNL character was modeled after him. Unfortunately, the popularity of the commercials didn't result in considerable revenue growth, and so the advertising agency did some research. After polling viewers of the commercial, they discovered that a large percentage of the audience remembered the commercials well enough, but couldn't remember the company that it was endorsing. So the switch was made to the gecko, simply because the gecko sounded similar to their company name, Geico, and thus the trigger was strong enough and close enough to leave the right impression on a viewer. The caveman was an ineffective trigger. Now, this example involved major ad campaigns and budgets, but something remarkable and memorable about your brand can leave a lasting impression on a buyer. Does anyone know the Will It Blend campaigns? Blendtec is a manufacturer of blenders. When I say, and they are premium blenders. When I say premium, I mean their blenders start at $700 and go as high as $2,000. Decades ago, the founder of the company started blending objects in the blender and recording them. I'll spare you the details, but the iPhone version where the guy in the lab coat and safety goggles throws an iPhone into the blender until it's crushed to dust got over 12 million views on YouTube. Now that's pretty remarkable. How about a campaign inviting hackers try to hack into your servers? Publicize it, document it, and make it fun and informative. Or what happens when a cable is cut or a server falls off a shelf? Document and show what failovers or systems are in place in case this happens. Something that's exciting and memorable and has an element of humor, awe, surprise, fear, or any of those emotions that provoke a reaction in people. If this stuff is a little bit too much for you, a great slogan can also be a great trigger. Something that is totally unique and resonates with the buyer will leave a lasting impression. All right, let's go to the last one, third one, create content of value. When we see a piece of marketing collateral produced by a company, we can make an educated guess at the value of that piece of content. I mean that we can take an educated guess at the actual dollars and cents and the time and creativity that went into produce that piece of content, simply its production value. Based on our personal perceived value of a piece of content, we subconsciously transfer that value to the actual product and company. So high perceived value content equals high perceived value of products, services, and company. So let me explain this theory. So we have different standards of what level of content production we expect based on our own biases about that industry, product, or service. This graph has complexity of service on the x-axis and cost of services on the y-axis. What I'm going to do here is plot those services based on our expectation for the level of marketing content in each industry. Let's start with some easy ones. The lawn mowing. The cost of the service is low, and the complexity is low as well. If a kid dropped off a handmade flyer in your mail slot, you wouldn't hesitate to give him a call. In fact, you would commend him for his entrepreneurial spirit. Let's try childcare. It's a little bit more complex than lawn mowing, and if you think of your monthly costs, it would fall around here. And finally, medical clinic. Now, operating a medical clinic seems extremely complex, and the cost can be very high, so we put medical clinic around here. Does this all kind of make sense to you? The more expensive the service and the more complex the service, our expectation of the quality of marketing content goes up. Depending how you slice and dice the data, these points may vary slightly, but I hope you get the general gist of this graph. All right, so let's go move on to some business applications. So let's say janitorial services is fall around here, courier here, insurance here, accounting, consultant, and last, finally, hosting. Where does hosting fit on this graph? Well, because of the many variations and complexities, I cheated a bit here and put hosting somewhere around here. So the hosting sector has roughly the same expected content level as an accounting or insurance provider. That sounds about right, doesn't it? Now, by producing content that is of higher value than expected, you're going to be adding to the value of your brand. That's the key. Produce high perceived value content. The web allows us to publish content quickly and easily. Unfortunately, a lot of bad content gets put out on the web. We know that good content can bring leads, but we sometimes forget that bad content can drive business away. Everything from the visuals, layout, and copy of your site will add to your brand. So ETC, emotional benefits, triggers with association, and content of value. And you know who does ETC really well? It's the insurance industry. Let me tell you a story. So I have a friend who owns a small insurance business in Vancouver. He's in his late 30s, and about 5 years ago, he suddenly quit his job and got into the insurance business after buying a license from a guy in his 80s. I think he was retiring. He'd bought the license from the gentleman for $100,000. I had a million questions. What was he thinking? He explained to me that insurance was all about relationships. People don't buy policies, they buy trust in the insurance agent. Well, really deep stuff. Now, my friend is the consummate salesman. He has been since I met him for the first time in college when he tried to sell me Amway stuff at a nightclub. For him, insurance sales comes naturally. It's about the relationship. Insurance is one of those things that seems commodity-based and only a point of conversation when something goes wrong. Sound familiar? Nobody cares or knows much about their insurers. Your insurance broker helps you make an educated decision at some point, and you basically ride on into the sunset with your policy until, bam, you get sideswiped in the Walmart parking lot one day. Sound familiar? The insurance industry does have striking similarities to the hosting industry, and we can learn a bit from the tactics from this more mature insurance industry and leverage those tactics. Marketing to emotion. Until a little while ago, the marketing used in insurance was largely based on happy, safe, secure emotions. The retired couple cruising on a boat, the young couple riding mopeds on their honeymoon, the young family buying their first home. I've seen a shift in the past few years where more companies are targeting the fear emotion. There are the Allstate commercials that tout dollar for dollar, nobody protects you from mayhem, like Allstate. Mayhem is played by an actor, Dean Winters, and he's the personification of various disasters that could happen to you in your life. Progressive auto insurance is another one, and they play on the distrust of insurance companies that's grown over the past few years by dispelling some of the limitations and restrictions that the industry has been guilty of. They've made flexibility and options their brand through comical scenarios. The hosting industry can tap into these similar emotions and use the ETC strategies employed by the insurance industry. All right, so we're running out of time here, and I'm sure you have a busy day scheduled ahead. So I wanted to give you a few takeaways today. Let me send you off with 5 easy ETC things you can do today to improve your marketing and brand. Number 1, visuals and photos that reflect the emotions and experiences of your prospective customers. So servers may have a soft spot in your heart, but mean nothing to the average person. No emotional impact, wasted space. People connect to pictures of people. Use people, not hardware. Here are a few examples. The first one at the top, tranquility. What tranquility means for the hosting customer. A totally customer-focused campaign, which implies that without this hosting provider, you're going to be in limbo. The next one, the surgeons in the operating room. This image immediately says medical and security. If it's good enough for a major hospital, it's good enough for me. The final one was borderline for me. It was a good strategy to personify their customer profile into verticals. Unfortunately, where it falls short is that the models aren't very believable. A couple more examples. These are two brilliant photos that were from the same hoster and showed real people in natural settings. They are targeting specific niche markets and selling a trend-setting brand. Very well done. Number 2, piggyback on your customer's brand and associated value in a meaningful way. What they stand for, you will stand for. In addition, it reinforces the decision in a buyer's mind that he is making the right choice. They'll say to themselves, well, this company has a positive experience with this hosting provider. I have similar needs. I'll have a similar experience. If you have a great client with a great success story from using your hosting, then leverage that through a testimonial video. Prospects are way more likely to watch a 2-minute video than to read through a 1,000-word case study, so make the investment. Now, there seems to be a trend of lining up the logos of the clients of hosting providers. It's become so prevalent, they've become like table stakes. You've seen them, like a minimum requirement for hosting website. You need a recognized app, e-commerce, telecom, SaaS, and financial institute to be credible. And to some degree, this is true. Logos help. But you are only gaining a small benefit from simply having these logos there. Here are a few great examples. By investing some time and effort into making your clients prominent, you'll gain much more than logos in your footer. The first top one on the left, beyond the cloud, we're helping the European Space Agency track tomorrow. A powerful message and a high-impact image tied in with their visual branding. These two along the side and the bottom, testimonial videos are also very powerful. Both these videos gave very specific examples of how the hosters helped solve some of their major pain points. The one on the right here was beautifully edited and improved the image of the company, a content of value. Number 3, specialize. Admit you're not good at everything and focus on what you are good at. Sharpen your message, make it meaningful. This allows you to put down a stake in the buyer's mind, cementing a trigger to your specialization. This takes guts, I know, but be fearless about what your brand really represents. And by taking the time and effort with your messaging, you'll be creating content of value which resonates with the buyer. They will value your succinctness of your messaging and place your company in a higher regard. Here are a few examples. The top one, global leaders in managed cloud for AWS. We've started to see more hosters getting into this service. Nonetheless, if you're a buyer with your hands in AWS and needing additional support, this company would seem to be the go-to company. Next one, HIPAA compliant solutions, 100% audit assurance. If I'm in the medical industry and need HIPAA, this would seem like the company to go with. At least I would jot down on my notepad, 100% audit insurance, or want to learn more. A great example of a hook to pique the attention of the prospective buyer, a good trigger. From what I understand, audits are extremely rare, so the assurance is almost like an insurance policy that you may never use. 4. If you're selling support and specialized solutions, incorporate photos of team members as part of your brand. This is an easy but often overlooked way to connect at a human level with your customers. Remember, people relate to people. We want to see real people to make a connection with the company. If support or custom solutions are your key business competency, then it only makes sense to sell the people who are going to make it happen. Make the investment to find a photographer in your city. They usually only cost a couple $100s. Find creative ways to use your staff on your website and connect. And you will have pride and ownership from your staff as well. It will also allow you to use your staff as part of your branding. Lots of examples. Your people become products. Fanatical support, first call promise, human-powered service. So these are some companies that have used their staff as part of their branding and even as part of their products. What's the difference between this slide with these 3 examples and the previous one? There and there. Now, models and overused obvious stock photos don't work. This one here in the middle, at the bottom left, you've been providing 24/7 support, fully managed, always monitored since 1999. Great, fantastic. And then you put this model on your homepage banner and you lose a lot of credibility. It goes back to content of value, C of ETC. Last one, create a jargon dictionary of commonly used words in your sector and remove them from your material. Use real words that resonate for your buyers. If you need to go back into your material, then do so, but stop using words that mean more to you and less to the buyer. Use real words that resonate with people at a level that goes beyond the functionality and features of your product or service. Offer a perspective and share a philosophy through words wherever you broadcast your brand. I've got 3 examples here. So A, this was a banner on a main page. There's a lot to think about when it comes to disaster recovery. Just do it before disaster strikes. Combined with the image in the back, the message addresses that DR is complex, but urges us to act now. B, delivering a safer and more secure connected world. This message is borderline for me. It may resonate with some buyers, but overall the message is too broad. C, hosted private cloud, application-specific VMware-powered infrastructures to support your business. Now this one is starting to move to the danger zone of too much jargon. It's staking itself as VMware-powered infrastructure, but falls short of offering some key solutions for the buyer. Now, before I go to the next slide, I'd like everyone's attention to your computer screen to humor me for 8 seconds of your time. Is everyone watching? All right. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'll give you an extra second because of that blip there. All right. Now I ask you to remember anything remarkable on that last slide. Well, the point of that exercise was to see what 8 seconds feels like. 8 seconds is the amount of time that an average consumer will browse a site to see if it is what they're looking for. It's not a lot of time. So use the space wisely. So that's your homework. 5 ETC things you can do today. 1, use visuals to depict the emotions of your buyer. 2, piggyback on your client's associated value. 3, focus on your specialization. 4, use photos of your staff to connect to your buyer. And 5, remove jargon and use real words. Now you've obliged me with your time today, so I wanted to add a bonus takeaway. The bonus, create customer-focused products as a starting point for your discussion for selling. I do this with all of our clients. I ask them, what do you want to be selling? What does your ideal customer want? And we start from there. If you don't currently offer specific products, you likely have some reasons why. They might be, I can't offer a solution without knowing the customer's requirements, or I don't want to be pigeonholed as a provider of a finite set of solutions. Well, kill the we can do everything message. Hone in on your strengths and play those up. Specialize, specialize, specialize. The product provides insight into how you service your clients. Address the pain points. Become the trusted advisor. The product is merely a starting point. If the product answers one of the buyer's concerns, then they feel that you're an expert and you can provide a solution to meet their needs, even if it is customized. Here are a few industry examples: the gated community cloud, the agile cloud, intelligent security model. I'm sure some of you have heard of these. So remember, your buyer is a consumer. He's the guy at the grocery store buying the bottle of wine for the party. He feels lost, but he wants to be this guy, confident and contemplative about his wine purchase. Your buyer wants to be assured he's making the right decision, doesn't want to make the wrong decision, is swayed by emotion, needs triggers to make the right decision, and values a nice label when he sees it. And at the end of the day, he just wants a nice glass of wine and a pat on the back for selecting the reliable hosting provider that gets the business to the next level. Let's review the ETC marketing model. Trust is more valuable than data. E, emotional benefits, motivate action through emotion. T, triggers with association, be memorable with triggers. And C, content of value, high perceived value content equals high perceived value of company. That concludes our presentation today. I hope you'll go back to your companies and implement some of these strategies today. And for those of you who've already embraced some of these strategies, keep it up. Thanks for attending this session. Total Product Marketing is located in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. And if you'd like to speak to me further about our creative marketing solutions, I'd love to hear from you. My contact information is here. And if you're ever in Vancouver, please get in touch with us. Thank you for attending the webinar. We'll be making a recorded version available on our website, and we'll also have the slides on SlideShare in a couple of days. Thank you very much, and have a great day.